This is the Above Average Podcast, and you are listening because you want an above average life. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the Above Average Podcast, where we talk with above average people about their above average lives. Today we are joined by a very good friend of mine, Mr. Carl Robert Stacey. I'm going to full name you, mate, because why not? I'm allowed to do that like an angry parent. And Carl is someone who I've known for many years. It's a delight to have him on the podcast as one of the earliest episodes. So, Carl, welcome to the Above Average Podcast, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I like the amount of times you said above average.
Above average, yeah. Well, that is the name of the podcast.
I like being referred to as above average person.
Yeah,
but
well,
anyways.
that is the whole point of the podcast, though, isn't it? And that's what we're going to go into, is the whole point of this podcast is to find and talk to those who want to live above average lives, who want to have something a bit unique about them and not just live as a mediocre existence. So, Obviously, we're going to treat this like no one has a clue that you've worked with me for years before. No one knows who you are. That's what we're going to treat it like. So, Carl, what is it you do, mate, currently? What would you say is the main thing that you do?
Okay, right now, the main thing that I do is, very simply put, teach people guitar, but I would like to believe that it's maybe more than that. I think once upon a time, I just viewed it as teaching guitar. Now, I like to view it as helping people grow at something that they're passionate about and to inject some positivity into their life, because life can get pretty dull. And I fully believe in how much creativity and music and art and everything in general can really impact people's lives in a positive way. So, teach guitar is the short term, long term, all that other stuff.
Inspire people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you get started with guitar? Tell me the story about what first drew you to guitar and how you got started playing. Because obviously you play gigs and stuff as well. So how did you get started with all that? What's the backstory on that?
Okay. We're going back a long way. So I've been playing guitar coming up to 17 years next year. Started when I was 11. I think the maths is correct on that. I'll be 28 next year. 2006. I think that was also the year. Basically just grew up. My dad played in a band when he was younger, playing bass. He's always played a bit of bass and guitar. And then I was always kind of like shown various rock bands growing up, from Black Sabbath to Deep Purple to Cream, etc. It was always the music that was on in the car, always the music that was on in the house. It was always the music my dad would sing to me as a baby, as a child. So I don't know, I feel like that had a massive part in like almost being the deciding factor that I would be at least into rock music.
Yeah.
But like obviously it went past that point, and the interest sparked more and more the older that I got. I remember like the first interest being around the year 2000, 2002, when I was quite young. Like we're going back, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And like listening to the likes of Slipknot and Papa Roach and all the new metal bands, Linkin Park, etc. Watching Kerrang on TV. All of that sort of stuff, and then obviously at the same time listening to all the stuff that my dad would listen to and watching him play guitar and all that. And then I just got to a point, the turning point, fun fact, was actually Drake and Josh.
Really?
So yeah, when I started watching Drake and Josh, I seen Drake, and like many other kids of our era and our age and whatnot, was probably like, oh, he looks cool, I want to be like him. So that was the moment I started growing my hair longer. That was the moment that I officially picked up guitar, essentially.
And grew the fringe out as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then I found bands like Green Day. So like early doors, it was kind of like Green Day and Blink-182. It's funny, like I say, I listened to all the heavier stuff, but like when I actually started playing guitar, it was more so Green Day, Blink-182, Sum 41. Watching Drake and Josh, watching MTV, that whole era of time, essentially, back in the day. And yeah, that just kind of inspired it. And then my dad got me like a cheap guitar. I seemed to be doing pretty well at it. He would show me some riffs, show me some things that he knew, obviously. Plenty of Black Sabbath riffs and whatnot. And then eventually he got me electric guitar. And then it was pretty much just hit the ground running, never stop, ever since, up until this day, from that moment forward. That's kind of the backstory.
So your dad played a massive part in shaping you into the musician you are now, then?
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. Yeah.
So what sparked you wanting to teach people that? So obviously you had a passion for it from such a young age. Yep. You know, your dad introduced you all this music. So where did the inspiration come from to want to teach people that? Because not everyone who plays an instrument wants to teach people. not everyone can teach people. It's quite hard to teach
Yep.
people. So where did that sort of start, that inspiration to want to teach people?
Couple of things. So I got into teaching really early on to playing guitar, so I'm really fortunate for that. So when I was about 15, 16, so this is like I say, I started at 11, so 3, 4, 5 years into playing or whatever it is, still a teenager, still quite young. Shout out to my good friend Lewis, our good friend Lewis.
Yep.
He
who
had
will
a guitar.
who will be on the podcast.
Yeah,
at some
you'll
point.
see him in the future, hopefully. He had a guitar, and he turned to me and he was like, "Look, can you show me a few things? I'll chuck you a $5." I was like, "Okay, cool. I don't really need the money. I'm a kid. It's all good. So come around. I'll show you some things." So I think that kind of like sparked something inside of my brain where I was like, "Oh, hang on. Like I can actually kind of make money doing this, and maybe something is like a skill that I can actually work on and be good at." That coupled with the fact that as I progressed with music, not really early on, it was more just creativity and passion, but as I got older through my teenage years, leading up to like college years and things like that, it was that initial thing of like thinking that I wanted to be in music, and not only because I enjoyed it so much and I was so good at it, but also because it can, like I said before, positively impact people's lives and things like that. So I think it was those two things, like realizing that I can do it, that I am good at it, and that it can be a good way to make money in the music industry, which is very difficult, combined with the fact that it's the best kind of quickest way to impact people's lives through art and music and creativity and things like that.
Wow, fantastic. So obviously building a business around that. Obviously music's quite a saturated thing.
Yeah.
Obviously I said not everyone can teach guitar, not everyone wants to teach
Yeah.
people a musical instrument. Like when it comes to the business side of it, that's what I really want to get out of you is
Yeah.
kind of squeeze you for business advice.
Okay.
Because there might be a few entrepreneurs listening to this who want to start a business,
Yeah.
who are like, I don't know how to do it, I don't know where to start. Obviously you are what,
27
27
right now, yeah.
Had to get that right. You're 27 now, so
Yeah.
that's quite young to run a business, especially one that is self-sustaining. Like you don't have any other jobs,
No.
right? So what are some of the things that you've been through when it comes to business, like especially the battles, things that you didn't realize you would have to do
Yeah.
as someone who runs a business? What's sort of behind that?
So the main question is things I didn't realize I'd have to do.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
things that you were like,
Um,
fuck, this is what it takes
yeah.
to manage a business.
Yeah. So the biggest learning curve for me, especially early on, it's still a bit of a learning curve now because, I mean, like, I'm very open and honest about this. I'm absolutely terrible at maths. I'm terrible with the numbers. I'm terrible with anything that is to do with that side of life. Really didn't do well at it at school, yada yada. It's my weakest thing in life is numbers and maths,
Yeah,
etc.
I can't stand maths either. I'm not very good.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I sympathize with you there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure a lot of people do. I'm sure a lot of people hate maths, but so a big learning curve going into it was the whole self-employed thing, was the whole tax thing, was the whole managing your own money, paying yourself, putting enough money aside to cover certain things, whether it is tax or rent on an office space or for a rainy day if something goes wrong, or
Yeah.
new gear, new equipment, or if there's like a pandemic, for example.
Yes.
Those kinds of things were the biggest thing for me because the teaching thing, like I say, was a little bit more of a natural thing. / I'd been doing it from such a young age that it was never really the biggest worry or issue or problem. That part I kind of knew where I wanted to go with it, how to execute it, that sort of thing. And then yeah, it was sort of just the building up aspect of it and dealing with the numbers, dealing with the money, treating it like a job where you're the only employee, so you pay yourself, but then you also have to cover all these other aspects along the way.
How do you have like a separate account when it comes to the business money, or does it just all come from you? Like how do you have like a separate business account, I'm assuming?
To an extent, yeah. Like, so within my own account, I just have like several accounts, like most people probably do, savings accounts,
Yeah.
etc. I have within my own account, I just have like obviously your normal current account that everyone has, and then I'll have like a one that I use specifically for tax, and a one that I specifically use to put money in every month to then pay myself with and bills, etc.
Yeah, you had to mention tax so no one listens up on this podcast like he's tax evasion. Exactly. So what are the things that like obviously people don't understand? So one of the things that I always hear about entrepreneurs is when people want shit for free,
Yeah.
or it's like mates rates and stuff like that. Like obviously Lewis offered you £5
Yep.
to teach him guitar.
Yep.
Like that's minuscule, right? But he was good enough friend to do that for you. Now, I remember when I started trying to when we originally had our YouTube channel, Thoughts in Motion.
Yep.
Right, so for those of you that don't know, me and Carl used to run a YouTube channel together called Thoughts in Motion. We had a couple other speakers on there as well, and we used to make motivational videos. It's the same channel that if you're watching this on YouTube, you will find the videos. If you scroll down quite a bit, you'll see Carl's lovely, beautiful, handsome face in there somewhere. But obviously, we started doing that, and I started giving out advice to people, and I started wanting to offer coaching.
Yep.
And people were coming to me and like, you know, do it for free for the exposure. And I'm like, well, like, exposure doesn't pay bills.
Yep.
Exposure doesn't buy food.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you want this advice, you have to pay for it. But people are like, oh, well, you're not established yet, so do it for exposure. It's like, yeah, but if the more I start telling people for free, word of mouth gets out there that I'm doing it for free, and people don't appreciate what they don't pay for.
Yep.
So that was one of the things I had to understand about business, and I'm quite grateful that I don't actually run my own business.
Yep.
I might in future, but right now I don't have the mindset for it.
Yep.
So things behind the scenes in business, like when it comes to sort of the leads and stuff like that, like what is it, how do you get your leads in? Obviously Facebook ads is a massive one, but what is it that brings in the most sort of leads for you?
Okay.
Do you have any strategies behind the growth side of it?
It's a number of things, and it's all based upon the longevity of everything.
Right.
So when I noticed everything started to really pick up, so let's say like I graduated university, and at the time I had, I don't know, maybe let's say 5 students or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, right, how do I turn this from 5 to, let's say, 30 or something like that? Mm-hmm. It was the longevity. It took about a year of building loads of different things online for people to actually finally kind of notice and pay attention. And then
when you say building
point,
things online, what things online exactly?
So, for example, there is various websites as a musician, as a tutor, that you can use to build profiles on, to create profiles on, which builds awareness. That all those websites have built-in SEO. So for like, you know, your keywords like Northeast guitar lessons, Gator guitar lessons, blah blah blah.
SEO is in search engine
optimization.
Right.
Just to clarify, I should clarify that.
Yeah. So what websites are those as well, in case anyone wants to jump on any from memory?
So the likes of, I think there's one called Tutorful, First Tutors. There's review websites such as Free Index. Obviously, Google business profiles are really important. I used one really early on called My Guitar Lessons as well. There's a number of them out there. I can't remember them all. That's a few right there. Right. But yeah, so the way that I built it up was I would go out and find as many websites as possible that I can make profiles on for free, put all my information up, put all my photos, videos, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Set all that up. If some of them were cheap enough to like upgrade to like some kind of membership that would give you more exposure, etc., I would upgrade it, because you've got to invest money to make money, of course. So it was between that, building my own kind of YouTube channel with guitar orientated videos, whether it was just kind of guitar covers, etc. Obviously, really valuable, really important to every business ever is your own website. So create my own website, building that up is again based upon SEO, etc. Google business, building up reviews as much as possible from every single student that I could get a hold of early days when that wasn't many. Obviously, all of the social media on top of that. And what I noticed, what happened at least to me early on, is once you've built all of those things, which does take a while, so that doesn't happen overnight. Like, it could take weeks to slowly build all these things, put them all together, get all the content up there and out of there. After that point, it's just a case of monitoring it all. So maybe like updating things here or there, especially a website, because your website always needs to be updated, again, especially because of SEO value. What happened for me at that point was I started off with 5 students, and it took ages and ages. I'd get one student here, one would disappear, one here, one would disappear. So it would kind of go up, back down, up, back down, up, back down. Right. But then slowly but surely, because I built all those things, the SEO value, or the social media kind of value of it, would grow and grow. And I'd got to a point where I didn't have to like put as much time or effort into like reaching out as much as I used to, in terms of like trying to like really physically push guitar lessons. It got to a point where, for example, my website would be at a good point SEO wise, that people would find me through Google and would directly contact me, instead of like kind of being the other way around through social media groups or whatever it may be. So yeah, that leads wise, it's all of those things combined, plus the longevity of it, being patient with it, building it to a point where all of the time, money, and effort you've put into it kind of like it's a return on investment, essentially, whether it's money or time, whatever it may be. It returns that back to you eventually, and I'm fairly certain this can be the case for most businesses, not just like what I do. But other than that, there is a really cool website called Bark, I believe, which again you can make a profile on, but they actually specifically give you leads, which you can access.
What is that?
As well.
BARK or
yeah, like dog bark.
Woof woof. Amazing. So obviously jumping off the social media side of it, obviously social media is a massive part of any business that's getting made.
Yeah.
I personally find it really difficult to grow social media. Obviously we here at the gym, we post reels like every day, like twice a day. I post another one. So I'm on reels constantly. My life has now become editing reels. Like this podcast will become reels. So when it comes to social media, obviously I want to get into have I got the name right? Redton, is that correct? Yeah. So obviously you are also, as well as teaching several people how to become the next Brian May or whatever, you also run social media marketing for a few small businesses. So obviously your expertise with social media came from you doing your own profiles, correct?
Yeah.
So how did you translate that? What made you want to do that for other businesses? What made you think you had that skill set to do that?
I just realized that, again, everything for me has to come from like a place of enjoyment or passion or whatever it may be. So I realized that because I did it so much for myself, and I still do it for myself, like I do genuinely, for the most part, enjoy the process of putting content out, building social media.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the idea of like putting time into it and then seeing again that return on investment in whatever way. Whether you get new inquiries, new likes, new followers, comments, reviews, all those things where it's like, oh, I can see this actually working, this actually doing something, it's grown, it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I really enjoy that. Plus, like, I've always been kind of passionate about small businesses in general, I guess. Like, whether it's like restaurants or whatever, like, I really love the idea of small family-run restaurants versus like franchises, etc. And I believe the world should have more of that and be more like that, rather than huge corporations, essentially.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like those things combine, and I was like, maybe I'm pretty good at this. And I did work. I took time out of music. Not I say time out. I still did music, just a little bit less, to work in kind of digital marketing kind of role, SEO role, content role, full time, because I kind of actually wanted to take that time to like work in it, to get that experience and exposure to it more so than I'd ever had in the past from being self-taught in it, essentially, because that's all ever really was. It was being self-taught. So yeah, when that kind of came to an end and I came back to a crossroads on where to go and what to do, it's very much like, okay, I know I can do the music. I'm going to keep doing the music because I'll always love it and I'll always do it. But also, maybe I can try this other thing because I've got this new experience and this new kind of found love outside of music as well, that I can adapt and apply in different ways and help other people, essentially.
Nice. So what is it you think that small businesses specifically are doing wrong when it comes to their social media? Like, so obviously you go in and you do X for them to grow their social media brand. What is it that you think they're doing wrong when it comes to small businesses?
The most important thing that I've noticed when I look at various social medias, whether it's restaurants, takeaways, or whatever it may be, that's a lot of what I tend to look at, to be fair. But
just specifically restaurants.
Let's say like restaurants in this example, I guess. Right. So it's interaction is the main thing I've noticed, really, and I feel like it's really valuable. Like, the reason that I've gotten to the place that I am with like teaching and things like that is because I'm so responsive to all of my students, like whether it's text, email, commenting back or replying on social media, making sure you say thanks for everything, really appreciate this, really appreciate that, thank you for the time, etc. And basically, for whatever reason it may be, whether it's like these other businesses just don't have enough people, they don't have enough time, maybe the older people. Not to say that older people can't do these things, but we all know that if we're talking about a certain generation, they would struggle to understand the concept or how to actually attack the situation.
Well, there's probably a lot of restaurants and places that are still doing things the old way, where it's like, like obviously takeaways are fine. You get flyers through the door, they put the menu on. That's fair enough, right? But a lot of like businesses are still trying to do stuff the old way. They're still putting stuff in the fucking local paper and stuff, like for adverts and stuff. Like, it's far more probably productive to have social media ads running. So if you can do that for a business, that's a massive skill. So that's one thing I've noticed that a lot of people ask me to do at the minute. Obviously they see my content, they see the reels that we put out, like me and you especially, they see the reels and they go, I need that. Like, what can you do for me? So for an entrepreneur as well, it is vital that if you have that skill to be able to edit reels, edit TikToks, edit YouTube shorts, edit any short form content, because long form content's good. Like, this podcast is long form content, but the most views are probably going to come from cutting this up into 30-second clips, because that's just how it is. People's attention span are so shit at the minute. So if you're you're not going to watch a 2-minute advert on what food a restaurant has. You're going to watch a 8-second clip of what's inside a burger, just like this burger just folding together. You're going to watch that.
So the most important aspect in that I've realized is short form like that, but also like such a simple concept. And to come back to the point I was making before, but like behind the scenes stuff, like showing how you make food, showing how you put it together, showing the ingredients that goes into it. Once you've posted that, posting things where it allows people to interact, so whether it's like a question, a poll, a thing where you can like press love or like or whatever.
Do you find that helps the page grow the interaction from people?
Yeah, in a way that it like creates an ongoing conversation so that people actually enjoy looking at your social media page, which in return, again, we're talking about the long-term thing here. So long-term, say for example, if someone comments on something and you literally just take 3 seconds to comment back saying, "Oh, thank you so much for coming to my restaurant. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you next time. See you soon," that sort of thing. That will drastically increase the chances of that person coming back versus not replying at all.
Well, it's a personal touch.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's a personal touch that people love. People want
that sort of thing. All it takes is a short period of time to show gratitude, to show thanks, to interact with people. It creates that impression. You know this from being a waiter in the past.
Yeah.
Creating that first impression is the most important thing. You create a good conversation, you create like a good dynamic, and then whether it's like the people want to come back to the restaurant or they want to come back to that restaurant and specifically talk to you or deal with you or whatever the case may be, like that's the most important thing, which is all of that you can do through social media, and you should be doing through social media.
100%. So at the minute as well, social media platforms are all trying to compete with TikTok. TikTok is the biggest thing to kick off at the minute. I was like, I don't want to be on TikTok. I'm now sorting out TikTok. I don't have my own TikTok, but I manage TikTok accounts, right? Because a lot of exposure comes through that. But that was my mindset. Was like, I'll stick to Facebook, and then it was like, okay, now I need to go on Instagram. Okay, now I need to go on TikTok. And it's like all these social media platforms. If you see the newest thing that comes out on them, if you can jump on that, they will reward your profile for doing that.
Of course.
Like Instagram doesn't reward pictures anymore. You'll get likes, you'll get comments, but you will be rewarded for reels.
100%.
Right? 100%. The same with YouTube. You are not, unless you're a massive YouTuber, you're not. It's very hard to grow on YouTube now because everyone wants to be a YouTuber. What do? You make YouTube shorts. But the best thing is you can also put these through Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. You can use the same video and post it to all three 100%. To get even more exposure. Exactly. So one short form content can be split across 3 platforms. That's so much like just spread of what you're able to do. So are you doing all that for what you do in terms of Red Tone, or are you keeping it sort of hush-hush for now? If you want your social media manager, come to Carl because he knows what he's doing.
I would say so, yeah. There is some aspects of it that I haven't had time to grow with or explore maybe as much as I want to. But I try to do all that stuff for sure.
Where did you learn a lot of it from? Because obviously you got to get inspirations from somewhere. So I know your inspirations, but I want to hear you talk about your who's your biggest sort of inspiration?
Okay, so we both know this from the get-go from many years ago. So shout out to my main man, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Gary V!
He was the initial inspiration behind all of this stuff, really early doors. So we're talking when I first started teaching guitar and launching everything that we're talking about as we speak. I read all of his books, listened to all his podcasts, watched any version of content that had Gary Vee, and I'd be on top of it straight away. And I can honestly say that I probably wouldn't be where I am without him and what he had to offer, what he had to say, what he had to explain to everyone, essentially. So you're going to have to cut that. I've lost my trail of thought.
That's all right.
What was the initial question?
It's a podcast, you don't. So just what your inspirations.
Inspirations, that's the one, yeah. Getting lost on Gary Vee.
We just Gary V's in my brain.
So outside of Gary Vee, the inspiration is just, I don't know, like, it's to me, it's again, it's another level of creativity, I guess.
Right.
And creativity is my number one inspiration before and everything else and anything really. So like video editing of any kind is creative to me. Photo editing of any kind is creative to me. Having fun with it, putting it out there, trying to get like that, plus the idea that it leads to interaction and growth and all that stuff is just really inspiring to me, really motivating to me overall, essentially.
Yeah, you ever thought about OnlyFans? Is that in your future?
Yeah, no. I do have Patreon though.
Patreon, that's similar as well. You can buy Carl's feet pics for 59 pence. Cool. So, how did obviously you mentioned earlier the pandemic, right? How did the pandemic affect your businesses, and how did you get around that?
Yeah, so the pandemic was a scary time, and it is. Everyone will say the same thing for various reasons. Obviously, it's just a global thing.
I remember you were like, I don't want to go out for a burrito because I need to be able to live today. Like, I have no money.
Yeah, so I am really fortunate, more so than a lot of people. So say, for example, being in the music industry, if I primarily relied on gigs, that would have been a very,
horrendous.
very, very scary place to be. Very scary, because you were pretty much instantly out of a job, and there's nothing you could do about it for like a year and a half or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, that was one thing I didn't get into before that I maybe should have, is doing music. I've always diversified myself across the board. So whether that's teaching privately in various schools, doing gigs, I've always had like a number of revenue streams essentially in case of actual situations like this happening.
That's really smart to do that.
Yeah. So basically I set myself up pretty well. I mean, I did get impacted by it. I did lose income. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen with a lot of things. My gigs completely went away. My schoolwork went completely away. But fortunately, one of 3 of my revenue streams was left, and that was teaching guitar, which has been my main thing always from the beginning. Everything else has always been secondary or third to teaching guitar, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I set it up that way because of the pandemic. Basically, what happened, it gave me the best upper hand in that situation. So it was just a case of communicating with all my students, seeing how they feel about it. Obviously being like, cool, Skype exists, Zoom exists. I have no other option essentially but to explore that and to try my very best to deliver what I want to and what I need to via those platforms. So yeah, it was just a case of reaching out to them and being like, look, obviously this is a situation. The only worry was other people's financial situations, because obviously that affects mine, because it's a luxury that people are paying for. But it worked out okay. I was able to not really make money, but make enough money to make it through the pandemic and be okay, essentially.
Yes,
so.
Good. We're glad you're still here, mate. So moving on from sort of the work side, right? Because I want to, when I get people on here, I want to know a little bit about them personally.
Yep.
So the side of their personal life.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously you've been through some pretty rough patches in past relationships that obviously had an impact on the way you've done things going forward, the way you are now. So I'm wondering on how much can you expand on the rough patches and relationships you've been through, and also if you can contrast that with running a business at the same time.
Yeah, so I've been in a few kind of, I guess, serious relationships, I guess you could refer to them as. I would say at least a couple of those being pretty just not healthy, to say the least.
Would you describe them as toxic relationships? Or?
Definitely toxic. Maybe not always, maybe not the entire relationship, maybe just towards the end or certain aspects of the relationship were negatively impactful. And I don't have anything negative or bad to say about those people because I don't believe in anything like that. I don't believe in negativity, full stop. So,
and trashing people's names.
I would never, ever, ever hold anything against anyone because I don't ever judge people, basically, is my life motto, I guess. But yeah, so early on in my life, teenage years, I was in a pretty damn toxic relationship.
Right.
And at that point in time is when I was going to like college and stuff like that. And it really impacted that part of my life. Like I wasn't really learning or fulfilling my wants or needs in terms of going to college to do music to then do what I'm doing now, essentially, to set myself up correctly. That was just a really, it was a scary relationship at the time. Very emotionally abusive. Certain aspects of it were physically abusive as well. It kind of got to that point.
Wow.
And this is all while going through that period of your life where you're kind of shaping who you are as a person. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to like mature. You're trying to grow. You're trying to like find out who you are outside of like family life and your parents kind of doing everything for you, etc. Like 15, 16 years old, you know what I mean? Like peak kind of like puberty, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was like, that really, I didn't realize it at the time, but it really affected everything in my life to follow. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I really kind of clicked to it, I think. But yeah, long story short on that one, it got to a point where it was so like physically abusive that I couldn't focus on anything at all that I wanted to focus on. So I lost friendships. My band was kind of going to hell at the time, which eventually led to me not being in the band anymore. I was doing pretty bad in my first year of college, just really not like taking it in as much as I maybe should have. Well, definitely should have. And that actually, to put a positive light and spin on that situation, because it got so bad and to that point, like to give a very in-depth example of what I mean before I kind of round that one off is I spent most of that relationship hearing off other people the entire relationship that that person was cheating on me, essentially.
Right.
So imagine like what that kind of does to you for like, it was nearly like 2 years or something like that, right? So
what,
like
you heard this during the relationship or afterwards?
during the entire relationship, but I wasn't like a strong person maybe like I am now to like maybe do anything about it or say anything about it, or
Right.
I was being quite like manipulated at the time as well, so it was quite
so you never brought that up?
I
to
never
her?
brought it up, I don't think, no. I was quite emotionally weak, incredibly emotionally weak, very submissive, being manipulated, being mentally and physically kind of abused. And it got to a point where I couldn't physically or mentally take anymore. It just got to that breaking moment, that breaking point. So I had to walk away from that. And that was actually, again, to put a spin of positivity on that, that was the start of where I was like, right, music's my number one thing. I'm making this happen. I'm making it work. I've put up with too many things for so long, too many negative things to put what I love aside anymore, essentially. Yes. So from that moment on, it was like, let's go full in on college and university. Let's get these grades. Let's do good. Let's try and succeed at this thing that I actually really want to succeed at. And then I was in like a long-term relationship to follow that for quite a while. Definitely, that was a really serious relationship. And that was fine. That wasn't mentally or physically abusive. It wasn't negative. It wasn't any of those things. It was a pretty damn normal relationship to be in, pretty healthy for the most part.
That's when I met you. Around when I met you, is that correct?
Yes,
right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. The only issue around that time would have been the fact that that timed with me leaving university, and trying to take this thing from nothing into something. So I had to dedicate a lot of my energy, a lot of my time, a lot of everything that I had mentally and physically to this thing to make it succeed. Looking back, I think I probably didn't need to give as much as I actually gave, essentially. I was very kind of self-absorbed at the time, very self-consumed, very much like, what I'll say with a level-headed, mature head that I have now is, I approached it from the wrong place. I started my career off from a place of fear, from a place of anxiety, from a place of I've got something to prove, whether to myself or other people. And so when I did actually become successful, and I was in what you would call, I guess, a successful relationship, and I was successful within music, these two successful things, I actually plateaued and experienced this thing that every like famous rock musician would talk about. So obviously we talk about mental health and musicians and things like that. And obviously you hear about a lot of musician suicide and depression, etc. Alcohol abuse, drug abuse, etc. I never got that point, obviously. I'm good, I'm here, I'm healthy. But I got to a point where nothing was ever enough. And although I had a successful relationship and I had a successful business or whatever, I was pretty just utterly miserable, essentially, to say the least. And this again is somewhere around the time, maybe a little bit after when I met you, I would say. But yeah, it would have been because I was obviously working at the time. So when a little bit after I met you, and when I went full into self-employment and left the actual job that I had, etc., a year or two in, I got obsessed with succeeding in the things I wanted to succeed at. So I ended up working all the time, like all hours of every day. Didn't really give myself a break, didn't give myself time off, didn't give enough time or attention to the relationship I was in, which eventually, long story short, led to it crumbling, which to an extent I understand completely and take complete responsibility for at this point in my life. And I had to learn the hard way. And it actually took up until the pandemic for me to learn that, if I'm being completely honest, like properly. Just before the pandemic, I just started to realize that I was just completely coming from an entirely wrong place, essentially.
Yeah. It's very hard for a man to get that sweet spot between, okay, I'm not working enough, and my partner is, lacking in the care department, but and then I'm working too much. So not working enough to the point where like I'm being lazy and my relationship's crumbling, and then also just smack my one, and then working too much and not giving enough care. It's very hard to find that sweet spot as a man, but 100%. As a man as well, you want to be able to provide. It's very much in us to be able to provide for our partners. We want to give them the best life we can, and that unfortunately means working a lot and sacrificing in a lot of areas. And I often feel like a lot of times women don't understand that. I often feel like it's like, well, you're not paying me enough attention. It's like, well, I'm also trying to do this at the same time. So maybe it could be a point of maybe you just weren't with the right person who would understand that and be supportive of your goals and stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying that, that you were right to put the relationship to one side and focus on the stuff. It's quite hard to find that balance. I understand that, but maybe it just wasn't the right time for that relationship.
I understand completely. Sometimes you learn. You got to go through everything. You've got to learn these things to become the person you are. And I think I've definitely been through a lot, whether as a teenager, as an adult, and only now am I starting to feel the essentially the rewards of it. Only now am I able to like be at peace with certain things. Only now am I able to see things in a certain way, in a mature, level-headed manner, to admit my faults, to see where I was approaching things incorrectly from a wrong place. Like, so that's all kind of led to where I am now. After that relationship, kind of going through what was another, starting off as an incredible relationship that I was incredibly happy in, slowly, I guess, to be honest. It felt quick, but it was probably slow. Turned into something that resembled a bit of a toxic situation again. I found myself again in that situation that I was maybe similarly compared with when I was a teenager. I mentioned before.
I personally remember you going through that time, and it was not a nice thing to watch as a friend's perspective. So a couple, like, kind of going through that, going through essentially wrongfully kind of called out on something that was completely uncalled for and not needed, and really tore my life down a whole lot. On top of that relationship essentially crumbling, but it didn't quite crumble at the time, and as you know, it kind of went on for quite some time to follow that, up and down wise. I would say, as far as like dark periods and light periods, I would think that it's actually like the peace that I have now and the light period I'm in right now is actually still quite recent in terms of life, in terms of long term. But I don't know, I feel like I've came through what I've came through, like bullying as a child, set like multiple kind of, whether it's physically or mentally abusive situations, being tore down again as an adult, having a serious relationship that crumbled, all meanwhile
trying to be successful and trying to do
fucking
something
hard. It's fucking hard. It's really hard to manage a relationship as well, because you're almost like, I would see the relationship and the business as managing two businesses, almost.
I used to see it as two relationships. That's the way I used to see it.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in two relationships, and pretty much any relationship I've been in, it's been like, right, this is the musician me, and this is the boyfriend me.
Yeah.
And I've got to clock into each one at different times and almost be different in each scenario. And that is very, very, very exhausting, incredibly exhausting. I was never able to find a balance, again, because it's probably just down to the fact of not being with the right person and things like that. But I was never able to find a balance where I could just truly, authentically be myself at all times, whether it was a relationship or business or whatever it may be. And that's why a lot of the time I have been miserable a lot of the time. Whereas from the outside perspective, it's that typical thing that you would say to any successful person of any kind. I use success lightly because success doesn't mean being famous or being rich or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Being successful either means being at peace with yourself internally, or I should say, having something that's successful in your life, whether it's just being really good at your job and kind of going through the ranks of it, whether it's having your own business, whether it's being really healthy, whatever the case may be. All those are versions of success as far as I'm concerned. I really don't care about fame and money and all
success
that crap,
success is a perspective.
Yeah, it's all a mindset, it's all a perspective, it's different to each individual, but I would like to consider myself, for the most part, being a successful person at the things that I've tried to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a lot of mental space, a lot of mental capacity being taken up by all those things all at the same time, constantly. Very rarely is there space to breathe, to think, to have peace, to do what, again, I use this term normally, do what normal people would do.
Right. So
I use the term normal very lightly, because I don't want to offend anyone.
That's fine. So when we say something like normal, we mean like almost basic level of what someone does. You know what I mean? Like, normal is probably
what society
does the
creates.
job, gets the house, gets this. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with normal.
Yeah, I agree.
There's nothing wrong.
I agree.
But this podcast is for people who don't want to be normal. It's for people who want to progress in something. And
so for me, like, I've still struggled with that to this day, because most people in my life, as far as immediate family and close family are concerned, is what I would bracket as the profile of being society's norm in terms of 2022. Which is a very outdated version of being normal, can I just say as well, because that version of normality has existed since like the 40s or the 30s or the 50s or whatever the hell. Do you know what I mean? Like, this model of you have to have this, and this for some reason existed, and then everyone just rinsed and repeated that same thing over and over. And I think it worked. I think it worked back then to an extent, because for example, like genders had much more specific roles in terms of in terms of where you stand being in a family, where you stand at work, etc. Whether some of that was healthy or not, depending on like equality and all those things. But
the thing is, when you think about it, like I've talked about this before, like gender roles and stuff like that. Like, I genuinely believe gender roles are, wired into us. It's not all gender roles are society based. Gender roles can be, men want to provide and protect. This is a very natural instinct in men. In women, they're very nurturing by nature, right? Which tends to be why you find the women used to stay at home with the kid, and the guy used to go out and work to provide and protect. That was how it worked. And now we're getting these people that kind of say that's wrong and toxic, and it should be challenged, and women should be. And I'm not against women being able to do that, but now you've got this bunch of this really riles me the fuck up. We've got this like group of like
the button here, guys.
You've got this group of like blue head feminazis coming at you being like, women should not stay at home and they should go out there and build this and do this, and it's like. And it's difficult for them to do that. It is so difficult to do that. Even as a dude, as a man, it's difficult to do that. And I think, gender roles are something I genuinely believe are wired into us. And you can argue that if you want, but if you look at the science behind it, you are wired to do certain things.
It's not just gender roles for me as well. The thing that's always riled me up is rules in general, and it's this whole societal norm thing. It's like, for as long as I can remember, creative people have been punished.
Yeah.
Simple as that, right? So whether that is like, there's not a lot of jobs available for them kind of people. A lot of them people have to be self-employed. They have to have their own business. They have to go into what is considered like unstable work, unstable lifestyle. There's that, like, there's not a lot of rewards or benefits to creative people. You're not helped or taught creativity, or not given the chance for creativity to become something as a child. Basically, the reason that I truly believe, okay, this is me going off on one right here, I truly believe that everyone in society would be so much happier if everyone was told from a really young age to always explore creativity and to continue to do that for the rest of their lives. I truly believe that.
So I'm gonna pull you on this point. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate in this. If everyone started to become entrepreneurs or started to be creative in something, the world would probably crumble. Because
I agree, yeah.
Because you need those people who do the mediocre jobs.
What
you
I mean
need
by that,
bricklayers and people who
I
do.
agree, yeah. So societal norms in that way have the place because they have to, because society needs those things to be in that order, to be in that way. What I'm also mean by that is, it doesn't mean you have to ever do it as a job, as a business, as a hustle, whatever the case may be. Just creativity in general. That could be working a 9 to 5, going home and painting a picture.
Yes.
That could be working a 9 to 5, going home and designing a game.
Yeah.
Like, just things that use that aspect of your brain that are the practical element of life. But you go through secondary school and they're like, well, here's a textbook, read that, fill these boxes in.
The school system is massively outdated. We all know the school system is not. The school system gives you a basic level education, but I've never used Pythagoras theorem in my fucking life. There is no reason for me to learn math. I would rather learn business skills. The problem is, you try and teach everyone business skills, everyone's going to be like all these. You're just going to have a lot of businessmen, right? So the reason school exists is just to give you basic level education.
Also,
go on.
School teaches you to be a good employee. That's all it does.
100%.
It teaches you to follow rules, to hand things in, to be on time, and to do basic level societal norms.
But I'm kind of also happy with that, because then it means there's less competition.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if everyone was clambering to get to the top, you'd have way more people in that sort of like quote unquote 1% bracket, right?
Of course.
If you want to be in the, you can. The good thing is it's quite easy to get ahead of most people, because most people don't do anything ahead of what they do normally. Yeah. So when you think about it, most people think, oh, I'd never be able to do this. It's like, yes, you could, because most people won't ever go for that.
Yep.
Most people will just think everyone else has already done it, so I can't do anything.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
What's the point in starting?
Yeah, what's the point in starting? But the truth is, you can get ahead pretty quickly. Like, it's funny, I was talking to... when I went and did Elliot Hull's, if anyone knows him. I went and did Elliot Hull's ground and camp. It was a fantastic experience. And there was a guy there called John Sonmez, right, who runs Bulldog Mindset, right? And he retired at like fucking early 30s or something, right? That's how successful this guy was, right? And he used to come in, he used to sit at the table with us every morning, have his cup of coffee, because the guy only ate one meal a day, right? He was jacked as fuck, only ate one meal a day. It was incredible. Yeah, it was incredible. I believe it's called the OMAD diet, one meal a day. And we were asking about his success and stuff like that, because obviously I'm just sat next to him, I'm just like making YouTube videos at this point, And I said to him, like, I was like, so what do you think it is that, like, how long do people have to be in something before they become successful? And he says most people will drop out way before the 5-year window. Yeah. Right. But if he was like, if you stick at something for 5 years, there's a good chance everyone else is going to have fallen by the wayside.
Yep, that's true.
And I was like, oh shit. And I was like trying to work out where I'm up to in my 5-year journey. I was like, oh, I'm actually probably about, I think I was about 4 years in, maybe 3 and a bit. And I was like, oh, not long. And funnily enough, like once I hit like sort of the 4.5 was when I actually started getting speeches given to me. Yep. Right. And I started getting interviewed by people, and I started getting more opportunities. I was like, oh, you know what? I don't know whether it was because I heard the advice.
Coincidence or not.
Yeah. Like I was just like sort of like, oh, I've heard this, so it's in my subconscious. But I always think about that now. I'm like, whatever I want to do it for 5 years. Because most people will not commit, like, most people don't even commit 6 months to a gym membership or something, right? Most people can't commit to shit other than what's comfortable. If you can do something uncomfortable for 5 years, think of the results you could get. It's incredible. Like, if someone picks up guitar now and goes, I'm going to follow Carl Stacey's lead, I'm going to pick up a guitar and I'm going to be in a band, right? 5 years later, you could be in a great band. There's no reason why you couldn't.
Yeah, this is something I speak to my students about all the time as well, when they say, just talking about being good at guitar, essentially, which again is a subjective word to use, because it's about perspective. But anyways, whenever they question things like that, I just say, okay, guess how many years I've been playing guitar? especially to the kids, because it's like a little funny little game to do. They'll be like this. I'll be like, coming up to 17 years,
And they're like,
and I'm like, and then I'll be like, that's why I'm able to do what I'm able to do. Simple as that.
Yeah. I think there's a little a parable. I think it's like a Picasso. I think it is, right. Picasso's in a marketplace, and this woman comes up to a Picasso and says, "Oh, can you draw me my portrait, please?" And he's like, "Yes, cool, no problem." And he whips up the portrait in about 5 minutes, like a perfect portrait of her face.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, that's wonderful." And he's like, "Yeah, that'll be like 32,000 whatever, right?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh my god, why is it so much? It took you 5 minutes."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, but it took me 5 minutes to draw it, but it took me like 30 years to learn how to draw it." And that's 100%. What people don't understand.
People paying me for a lesson are paying for 17 years worth of experience.
Exactly. And that's what we were saying before. When friends don't like think to pay, it's like, "Oh, you're just starting out." It's like, well, no, I've also built this up and I've learned how to fucking do this.
I did music for free for 10 years.
Wow.
Before I made a single penny.
Yeah. That's crazy that you had a commitment that long to do that.
Yeah. I didn't even begin to think about making money until like 10 years in. And think about how many people make it that far.
Most people don't think they can make money out of their hobby and stuff like that. Like I was saying before, some of the most valuable skills are write copy for people, learn how to Facebook ads, Reels, TikToks. If you can do that for people, you can make money.
Yeah. 100%.
Just charge 25 an hour, edit an hour's worth of footage, there's 25. You could easily do that so well.
Even if it is just at the side of your job.
Yeah.
I truly believe that as well. I'm really fortunate that I'm not in that situation to have to do it as a side hustle right now, but like...
Reels is my side hustle right now.
But like, I truly believe, talking about the creativity thing as well, I truly believe, and this is another thing that Gary Vee kind of promotes, that I truly believe in, that I respect, that I understand, that I appreciate. And it's the whole thing of, if you hate your 9 to 5, why would you go home and do nothing?
100%.
Why would you not go home
100% agree with
and
that.
work from 6 till 9 or whatever it may be on whatever that thing that you love is? Like, what benefit is there to, especially these days when the price of living's so high, when tax is so high, like all of these expenses, you can go self-employed while working a job. You can do something that you love, that you enjoy, that you want to explore, and change your life.
Most people, I wouldn't even say
change your life.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say go to self-employed. I would say just freelance.
Yeah.
Just freelance. Like, if you have a camera and you can take good pictures, if you go out there and take pictures of birds, there's someone that wants pictures of the gig, of something. There's so much more opportunity now to make some money on the side. It is ridiculous. I'm gutted that I didn't start sooner. Yeah,
I don't have much... I struggle to have sympathy for people that complain about the jobs and do nothing about it. I really struggle to have, whether it's, well, get a different job or get qualified again to get higher, to have access to another job, or keep doing that job and do something on the side until you're able to not do that job anymore. Or you just keep doing that job because you want to play it safe. Okay, that's fine. Happy days. Like, I'm all for like stability, I'll say, because nothing in life is stable from the minute that you're born until the minute you die. But anyways,
the only thing that's certain is death and taxes, right?
Exactly. I hate this whole stable mindset. It makes me sick. But
humans, we crave comfort and certainty, right? One of the biggest things is, right, like, you know, when we talk about people moaning on Facebook and they moan about the same problems over and over and over again. Do you know why they put it on Facebook?
To have other people to kind of
bounce
back that negativity.
Because they get something from it.
Yeah.
Misery loves miserable company. And if you complain, people also want to complain with you. People agree with your complaint. You get sympathy, you get validation, you get attention.
Have you ever noticed how, very simply, a negative post online gets more likes and interactions than a positive post?
Oh, dude, I could bitch about the postman on Facebook and I'd get more likes than that. If I posted a picture and I was like in front of a crowd of like 80 people doing a speech, and like I would get more likes on a post about bitching because more people can. But that's the thing, that's good though, because it means that people don't relate to me anymore, and that means I'm on another level. That's just to sound a little bit arrogant, right? If people don't relate to you as much anymore while you're moving forward, it's because you're going up a level. It's almost a good thing.
Which is a funny thing as well, because I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I've had friends that I would consider to be pretty close, good friends, as let's say the last 5 years or so, or whatever, maybe since leaving school, maybe something like that. Right. So actually that's 10 plus years, but anyway, randomly friends kind of disappear. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. And this is something that really frustrates the hell out of me for a number of reasons. So like recently I've had a friend completely just not respond to any of our messages or reply, and it happened last year as well. So that's 2 years of two friends completely different disappearing. And it makes me think, like, fair enough, if those people have something personal going on in the struggle, say they've got like the struggle with depression and they haven't really came out to anyone about it, and they're struggling to like communicate or socialize or any of those things, I do have sympathy, and I do understand that caring about other people is the last thing you should be doing in that situation. You should absolutely be putting yourself first. But I just don't understand what happens to those people, or those people disappearing because they no longer connect with you because they're seeing how many positive things you post on online and how successful you are in certain aspects. Either way, what happened to human decency of reaching out to people and being honest in life?
Oh, dude, that was never a thing.
You know what I mean?
Don't delude yourself. If you are successful, people don't give a fuck. You will never be hated on by someone doing more than you. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. Is like, no one's going to be like, oh, like, fuck you, you successful prick, when they're successful.
Yep.
Successful. Most people believe that successful people don't give a fuck about the people below them. We want people to be successful. It's the people that are not going after anything.
Self-reflection. It's deflecting on themselves, what they think of themselves. That's how.
You being successful reminds other people that they're doing fuck all.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds people how like miserable their day can be, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But the problem is people want to blame everything else for it. But it's like, oh, I can't
Shout
be
out
this
to our
way.
very first video.
Victim
mentality.
Herd mentality. Yes. Fucking hell. Same thing. I think it's the exact same thing. Yeah, fucking hell. That's a fucking throwback in the field. You can actually go find that if you type in thoughts and emotion herd mentality, it'll come up. But like people just want to blame everything. They blame ex-partners who they haven't seen for 10 years because they left them with a trauma response or something like that. And I understand people go through shit, but it cannot be an excuse your whole life.
All you're doing if you're holding on to that is holding on to something from your past, which is constantly going to ruin your life.
Exactly.
As long as you allow it to ruin your life, it will ruin your life. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Stop looking back. You're not going that way. It's like, you just need to focus on what can you do, not what can't you do. What can you do? Like, I could blame so much. Like, when I started going to the gym and stuff, I know you train as well. Me and you are naturally skinny kids, right? Like, not like just built like a rake. And it's like funny. Like, I used to be like, well, I'll never have biceps to be proud of because I'm, I'm skinny. I'm genetically this way.
We decide this.
Yeah.
Before we even try.
Things play a part. So I'm never probably going to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Right? It's just
understandable.
Right. But nor do I want to, actually. Because the level to maintain that would be ridiculous. But I'm never going to be huge. Yeah. Right? I can blame genetics. I can do whatever. Yeah. I can blame my metabolism. Yeah. Yes, they are factors, but no, they are not excuses. Yeah. Right? And it's like if you were natural, you've got to
take accountability though. So you're saying yes, I'll never be huge. Which is valid because, for example, comparing with Arnie, you absolutely don't have the time or money to invest in yourself to be as big as Arnie.
And I also don't want to shrink my balls with steroids.
That's true. Yeah. But like, that's accountability. You're accepting the fact that you don't have the time, the money, the whatever it may be to be that big, but you're accepting the fact that it's not going to happen. You're not coming at it from a negative place. You're coming at it from a realistic place. Yeah. And taking accountability for your actions.
Yeah, exactly. Most people might be listening to this going, I want to start a podcast, but I don't know how to do it. What you do is you go on Amazon, you buy two. What you have to do is you have to buy 2 different microphones as well. Don't make the same as I've got a microphone sitting gathering dust over there because I bought 2 microphones that are the same and the MacBook recognizes them as the same device. So buy 2 separate microphones that are different brands that are at least similar in gain, and that'll do well. So
that's a massive thing for musicians out there as well, in case there is anyone watching this that I can positively impact their life right now. I would love to be able to do that. So the whole waiting for anything to happen in the music industry is never going to happen, basically. Yeah. So DIY is the way forward. Learn how to record, get cheap gear. You don't need to spend loads of money. £100 to £200 max. You'll have everything you need to record everything that you ever need for the rest of your life. Full stop. End of story. But anyways, I hate it when people complain about money because money doesn't. It's not a factor in today's society in 2022.
Or one of the best things you can do is find someone who's got the stuff that you need. Offer your services in some capacity.
But what I was trying to get at with that point is, if you're a musician right now that wants to tour, wants to release music, wants to do anything that resembles being a musician and being in a band, don't wait for someone to join your band. Don't look for people. I mean, look for people if you want to, but literally just get a laptop, get some gear, start writing songs, start recording them. I don't care, and no one else cares how them songs sound. All of my earliest recordings, if I go back to them now, it makes me want to kill myself. But anyways,
so it's funny because like you say that, because it's like I used to, obviously we made YouTube videos for years, and that was sort of just a backlog of random videos.
Yep.
And because we edited those, you know, obviously when I went to work for Alex from the XRSD instructor, Alex, excuse me, I went to work for his company, the 40 Natural, because I had video experience. Like, I didn't intend that to happen, but because I was already building a portfolio and building a backlog of stuff, it gave me opportunities.
You created your own CV, basically.
Basically, 100%.
Which was accessible for anyone to see into. It's ultimate proof. It's complete proof. But
it is.
Even if you want a tour, I have DIY self-booked 3 tours, from the venues to the bands to the hotels to the promotion to the marketing to the expenses to everything. I've done it 3 times over. I've released my own albums 4 times over. It is possible. It is doable. I'm not saying you're going to make loads of money. I'm not saying you're going to be successful. I'm not saying it will go any of which way. But I can guarantee that the self-fulfillment aspect of it will be through the roof, and you'll be a much happier person.
But you also never know. So jumping off the back of that, actually, so we'll sort of round up this podcast. We've been going an hour, by the way. It's been fucking good. This is how long we can talk for. We need to do another one of them drunken motion videos again next time we go away, because that's funny. If you go on YouTube and search up drunken motion, you'll see a very funny video of me and Carl trying to do a motivational video.
When was that, 2018?
Yeah, like the April time. So rounding up, I want to ask you about your most recent album, Birth.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously a lot of the songs are quite personal to you. So what is sort of the process of how you wrote those songs? Like, what do you do in terms of making a song? So obviously you said you want to inspire people to make music. What do you make first? Do you write the lyrics first? Do you make the beat? Like, do you write a solo? Like, how do you go?
I can break down the entire process. So I write every song that I ever write on a recording software. I write as I record as I write, basically. It's the easiest, quickest way. If you don't have recording software, you can get ones for Reaper for free online. Does the job. It's professional, easy. Interfaces cheap as well. So I'll basically write pretty much, I'll create the skeleton of a song all on guitar. Then I'll go back and then I'll think, right, what would the drums do? And then I'll kind of map out all of the drums. Now I've started to actually play the drums as well. Then sometimes I'll go back and re-record certain parts of the guitar to make sure it's tight and it lines up correctly and all that sort of stuff. And then I'll have the bare bones of a song, and then I'll record the bass. Then I'll think, okay, what lead guitar part would fit really nicely and fit well over that? Does it need it or not? Layer that. What I tend to do is I'm always writing lyrics for the most part. Like, if I have random inspiration, because you never know when inspiration strikes when it comes to writing lyrics, I'll just write lyrics at any point of the day, at any time, basically. And I'll have like somewhat of like a bag of lyrics essentially to pick and choose from. Then I basically have the skeleton of a song. I listen to it and I go through, I'll like say they're on my phone, I'll be scrolling through my phone thinking, right, what lyrics kind of fit the tonality of this song? Is it a happy song? Is it a sad song? What are these lyrics trying to achieve? Then I'll literally just sit and hum or sing the lyrics in like, just try out different melodies, different things. Like, fortunately, because I've been doing music for so long, I don't really struggle to come up with melodies or like things for the most part write themselves for me, fortunately, which isn't the case for a lot of people. I'm able to tap into that creative part of my brain, which just takes over and just goes, essentially.
So is it like personal experiences when that you draw from? Is there ones that you want?
The lyrics.
Is it like you write everything from personal experience, or do you write ones that you kind of think this would be an interesting topic for a song?
For the most part, it's personal experience. I think I've pushed a little bit past that with the new album that's going to be coming out next year. It's a little bit more conceptual, like from a personal experience, but very adaptable to people's lives, I would say. The last album, Birth, was pretty much entirely personal. Basically, I'll either write a couple of lines that just come to me just out of blue, and then I'll read them back and I'll think, right, what am I trying to say here? And that'll kind of like dictate where the rest of the lyrics go in terms of how personal I'm going to go, what the subject matter is, what the topic is. Or sometimes I will think of a general idea. So for example, the song Nostalgia, which you're aware of, I did sit there and think, okay, cool, I want to write like the song's called Nostalgia because I wanted to write lyrics that reminded me of like a nostalgic period of my
Like a
life,
pop punk
essentially.
time.
Yeah. So I wrote, right, oh well, what's the most nostalgic thing? Cool, being a teenager. Let's write lyrics about going to gigs and having fun as a teenager.
Yeah.
And just kind of put that together. So yeah, it's a very varying option, I guess. But it's all pretty personal for the most part. I have a vision inside of my head of how I want the songs to sound and how I want the band to sound in terms of tonality and genre and style, etc.
Fantastic. Is there any one song that really speaks to you the most that you've wrote? Like, what's like your favorite song?
Yeah. I might have to go with like 3, maybe.
Come on, then, top 3 in no particular order.
For positivity reasons, I'm really proud of the song Manifest because I believe in manifestation of things, especially positive things. That song is one of the few positive songs that I have because I write a lot of like songs that come across negatively. The lyrics are dark, which can be kind of conceived as negative, but it's me trying to do it more from like a therapeutic place personally or for other people.
Yeah.
But that is quite an uplifting song in terms of the lyrics, about kind of how you can have everything that you want to have in life if you just work hard for it, essentially.
Yeah.
There's a really personal song I wrote on the new album. It's an acoustic song, so it's quite kind of low tempo. It's quite not dark, it's a very honest song. It's a very, very honest song. It's called 27, and I'm going to be releasing it next year. It's a very honest song about being 27. It's as simple as that. And about like mental health struggles, but the lyrics take like a positive spin on it in talking about how it's okay to feel all the things that you feel and go through all the things that you go through and how to move forward with your life, and that sort of thing. And then probably the song Pushed because I really enjoy playing it live. I'm really happy with the video, and the lyrics are incredibly honest about some of those things that happened in relationships that I've mentioned in this video today.
Yeah.
And it's the lyrics feel like me reading from like a personal diary or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
So and it's about toxic situations, and I really hope that people can connect with that and listen to it and think that, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Wow. Amazing. Mate, it has been fantastic to have you on here as one of the first guests of the Above Average podcast. It could not be anybody else. It could not be anyone. So, where can everyone find you if they want to give you a follow and check out your music? Where can people find you?
So, personal Instagram. I say personal. It's still not really personal, but Carl Stacey Music 1. Everything else will be Connection State band. So whether it's TikTok, Instagram, literally just search Connection State on Facebook. YouTube, search it, it'll come up. My website's carlstaceymusic.co.uk. That's all lesson/business related things. I have Carl Stacey Guitar Tuition on TikTok. It's either Connection State on everything, Carl Stacey Guitar Tuition on everything, or Carl Stacey Music on everything.
Mate, you have everything but a fucking MySpace as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic, guys. So I appreciate you guys listening in. I'm sure we'll have Carl back on the podcast as well because there's more I wanted to ask him, but we are out of time for today. So please like, comment, and give this podcast a share. And if you're on Apple Music, give us a review as well. So thank you very much for listening, guys. We will see you in the next episode. See you soon.